Good evening from the Philippines. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to this important discussion. This is going to be a very casual conversation, informal discussion, and we want to talk about how young people basically are being affected and are responding in the context of the COVID-19 and how they're responding to addressing food and nutrition security. And with that, we have very lively, and we're hoping for a very lively and interactive discussion with you guys here tonight in this very call, in this very meeting, rather. So, this is the YPARD e-forum, hashtag Youth in Ag post COVID e-forum. All right, we have three wonderful guests with us. This show is actually a fruit of different organizations collaborating with each other. And we'd like to thank Dream Agritech Consultancy Services for providing us with the uh, technical platform for us to make this webinar, this web discussion, this e-forum possible. And this is organized by YPARD Philippines, and we have YPARD Global and YFarm presenting this with us. So, without any further ado, let's go right into what this discussion is all about. The discussion that we're going to tackle tonight is basically something about all of us that has affected us, something about the COVID-19. And the COVID-19 pandemic is pushing global agri-food systems to change in various ways. All actors across agricultural value chains, from public to private to civil society sectors, are responding and are being affected to the changes that the global pandemic has brought about in terms of food and nutrition security. In one of the discussions of the United Nations Committee on World Food Security the chair of the high-level panel of experts said that certain supply chains that were thought to be efficient are now being revealed as not resilient given the context of the health crisis or the global pandemic. And one aspect that we also need to consider about supply chains is the aspect of young people being in those supply chains, being that young people actually put the sustainability and resilience aspect also in the agricultural supply chains, which is why we're brought to this discussion. This discussion, therefore, seeks to kind of highlight and try to map out what the way forward is for youth in agricultural dynamics post COVID-19. So let's introduce our speakers and let's not waste time in bringing in this interactive discussion on the go. Let's start off with our first speaker who we'd like to bring into the show. We have the chair of the YPARD steering committee. She has been in the international community and networks space for 10 years. She served as the YPARD Global Communications and Knowledge Manager back in 2011 to 2017. She was the Members Engagement Specialist at Civicus, the Global Civil Society Alliance, from 2017 to 2019. She fell in the world of agriculture when she was a kid, living in the countryside with her family, working on different aspects of agriculture, from farming, dairy production, extension services, etc. She has a master's in ICT 4D from the University of Manchester, and she also has a master's degree in information and documentation sciences from France. Let's welcome to the screen and to the stage Marina Charbonnier. Hey Marina.
Hi guys, nice to be here.
Bonjour.
Nice. I can do that in Filipino. I'm sorry.
All right, Marina. Thanks for being on the show and thanks for joining us. All right, let's welcome so that we have all the speakers here with us. Let's welcome our next speaker. We have, he's known to be Agriman. He's the founder of YFarm, which is We Help You dash th. So Youth Farm, well, YFarm, and it's a globally recognized award-winning nonprofit organization that pioneers agricultural education, entertainment, also known as agri-edutainment. That's interesting. Its mission is to promote the importance of sustainable agriculture among youth and children, build their capacity in agricultural entrepreneurship, and empower them to contribute to achieving global food and nutrition security. Alpha is globally known as a farmer entrepreneur or a farmerpreneur. He's a motivational speaker. He's an agri-youth advocate, and he's a graduate of the University of the West Indies. So Alpha developed Agriman and Photosynthesista. Okay, and he says it very nicely. You'll hear it from him later. The world's first food and nutrition security superheroes. They teach the youth how and why food and farming is critical, and while developing the understanding and motivation and commitment to the said values. Let's welcome to the stage and screen Alpha Senon. Hey Alpha.
Woo!
Agriman.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. Well, thanks
How
for
are you doing?
having me.
Good morning, Alpha.
Good evening, Jim.
It's very nice to have you here on the screen with us from two different sides of the world.
I know, right? Thank you.
All right, last but not the least, we have the guy, the man behind the steering wheel of YPARD, the global director. For a decade, Yemi's experience has cut across management of multi-stakeholder initiatives, including youth programs, and interdisciplinary research activities that focus on the sections of power, people, and spaces in landscapes such as forests, water, and agrosystems, and the governance thereof. His portfolio covers experiences in Africa, in Europe, in America, Asia, and the Pacific, well, basically the world. And Yemi holds a PhD in multi-scalar and participatory aspects of resource governance from the University of British Columbia in Canada. So, let's welcome to the screen our one, our only YPARD Global Director, Yemi. Hello, Yemi. Yemi, you're on the screen.
Hey
Hey,
Jim,
Yemi.
hey everybody. I,
Hello.
Good
I can't
afternoon.
come in like YPARD, you know. Woohoo! All right, thanks so much for having me.
Great, great. So,
Uh,
thank you guys for
hey
agreeing to
Marina.
be on this discussion. Yeah? How are you guys today?
Wonderful.
Yeah, really feeling really good. Feeling really good.
Nice.
Yeah, very well. It's sunny outside, and
Excellent.
today has been a sort of a talking day for me. This is my second webinar, so it's an
Nice.
interesting
At
one.
least at least the previous one got you warmed up already.
Exactly.
Perfect. So we got you very hot from the pan.
hmm
Hello. So we before we jump into the discussion and all, we wanna see who's greeting us from where, and we have the YPARD Bangladesh country representative Azam bringing a shout out. Hey Azam,
Um,
nice to
Hi,
see you
Azam.
here. We have Munir Hinai. I think Alpha, he knows you too.
yes. Walaikum
Yeah.
salam. Yeah.
Oh, and we have a common friend
Yay.
here,
Yeah.
Josine. Hey Josine, hi Jax. How you doing? So we have lots of people watching. Wow. How many viewers do we have so far? Okay, we have a number of people. Great. So, guys, this web discussion is basically not a very formal conference whatsoever. It's very chill, it's very informal. We want to keep it live, we want to keep it interactive. So, you can interact with us, with the speakers as well, by jumping in on the discussions. If we're tackling a certain point or whatever, you can jump into the comments, put your ideas in. We have our Dream Agritech partner here backstage. Dax is in the background, who's controlling the backstage, like keeping us from the outside and back in. And we have Dax monitoring the comments also. So shout out to Dream Agritech for putting the platform that helped YPARD put this forum together. Great.
Good one.
So we have, oh, hello, Wakar from Pakistan. I remember seeing Wakar from a meeting in YPARD, Asia Pacific in China. Yeah. We have Daniela Rivas. Hey, Daniela, how are you? Great. We have Arif Khan. Hello. We have Arif. How are you, Arif? Doing good. Rebecca Duco. Good morning. Good
Hi,
morning to you.
she's in Trinidad.
Good. Nice. We've got people from Trinidad and Tobago. Great. So we have people from around the world listening in. And I think this is a good time to start. We got the people warmed up and ready. They're interacting. I hope you guys keep on commenting. And once we get into the discussions, everybody we've mentioned as much as possible, we're expecting you to actually comment as well and share your ideas, share your brilliant stuff. It's not just Marina, Yemi, and Alpha, and me or Dax that has the brilliant ideas whatsoever. This is basically a space for everybody to interact. So no one is here to monopolize information. It's here for us to share. with each other and see how we can help each other rather, move forward past this global pandemic. Great. So, are you guys ready?
Yes.
I don't say that in a way to scare you guys.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. Oh, we have somebody from El Hanati, from Mustafa from Morocco. The topic is
Ooh.
hashtag youth in agriculture post COVID-19. So we're gonna talk about how young people will can move forward in the context of the new normal. What people are saying, the new normal, right? Great. So if you guys want to tweet about this event, don't forget to use the hashtag YouthInAg post COVID. You want to share this stream, please share this stream with your networks. Make sure everybody that you share it with, you tell them that they can interact with us on the comments. We will be featuring them on the screen. We're going to shout out to them wherever they are from the world. And
Yeah.
we're open to everybody's thoughts and ideas and contributions. Woohoo! Okay, Dax. So we got Dax commenting and him posting it himself. Nice one, Dax. Anyway, that's our technical director right there, Dakila Alfindo. So huge shout out to Dream Agritech for helping us put this up. Great. We've now introduced everybody. We've talked about what this discussion is going to be, what it's all about. Now let's jump in to the very first question. And it seems heavy, it seems formal, it seems very technical, quote unquote, but let's try to keep it light in how we treat it, maybe, and more of a story, narrative, experiential kind of say or way of answering in terms of what we've done. So, oh, did Yemi just drop off from the call?
I hope not.
I confirm he
Oh
just dropped.
no.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Let's hope he comes back.
Dax, can you work with Yemi on the backstage to see how he can get back here?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thanks, Dax. All right, so
He's just running
we've had
away.
technical. We have
He does
technical.
that all the
Okay,
time.
He's back. He's back.
great. Now he's back. All right. Hey, Yemi.
Yemi, I got
thought you
the
just
Yeah.
just when we were about to start the discussion, you drop out like that.
Yeah, maybe it was Dax punishing me.
No, don't scare me like that. Don't scare me like that. All right, guys,
All right.
I'll leave you to it.
So you see, guys, this is a very informal discussion. Really, it's just us wanting to see how we can move forward. All right. So let's tackle the first question. Yemi, please don't drop out on us.
I will not. I'll stick
All
around.
right. All right. Okay. So for you as a young person, or in the community that in, you're living in, you're engaged with, how has COVID-19 impacted you in terms of food and nutrition security? I think the way for us to say maybe food and nutrition security is your access, in terms of movement restrictions, or has it affected the availability of certain food items that you were maybe used to buying or whatsoever, and has it also affected the affordability, or the prices? What is the status from your side of the world in terms of these food access, food availability, and food accessibility? Sorry, food affordability. Yeah. So who wants to go first?
I don't mind.
Okay, go ahead, Alpha. Shoot.
Yeah, so I mean, on my end, well, speaking from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, for those of you all who don't know, in the West Indies, the COVID-19 situation has really, well, it definitely impacted our food and nutrition security. Um, and from my spectrum, from my angle of the lens, I think in a positive way. And why I say in a positive way is because, as we say, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is grabbing onto some seeds, grabbing onto some seedlings, grabbing onto some soil, and planting something, right?
Hmm.
When we first started hearing that it's I guess it's coming to the Caribbean, and there are cases popping up in Trinidad and Tobago in particular. The panic obviously started about food, right? And I like to say that it actually, this situation, this pandemic really helped our cause at YPARD in a sense, in a weird sense, of course, because it's unfortunate, but it really helped us answer that question, why farm, which we were trying to get across to our followers all these years, right? And it sort of then tipped those followers over the edge to really know, okay, let me plan something. It's real, it's serious, there's a crisis. I could possibly go hungry. And with all the money in your pocket and all the assets you may own, if you don't have that kitchen garden, you could be in problems. So that is where it really impacted. And then my goal or our goal at YPARD now is to really keep people and to keep them planting, keep them growing their own food. And so we came up with several initiatives to be able to do this. And I guess I could go into it a little later, how we plan to keep these folks planting, how we plan to keep them being backyard gardeners, So yeah.
Wow. So in your context, basically what happened is the pandemic somehow put everybody questioning.
Yeah.
Why farm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many people get that answer. They got that answer that this is why farm. There's a global crisis. The barrier to be shut, meaning be able to import food. Besides that, even I didn't mention as well that fast food restaurants were closed. So folks were now forced to go back to their kitchen, go back to getting all these vegetables, local vegetables that they may have been running away from all the time, and really get to, besides growing, but also cooking. So I would say food security was threatened because of those fast food restaurants being closed. But our food and nutrition security, because of course, those fast food restaurants, most of them are not nutritious, right? But our food and nutrition security, I would say, it really helped us. Like really being able to get these young people, not so young people, elderly folks as well, wanting to grow their own. Yeah.
Nice. I think this is maybe what we can call the silver lining of what's going on around the world right now. Yeah. So, Marina, what could you? Yeah, jump into that.
So I haven't started growing my own food yet, but it's going to come at some point. But what struck me in that crisis or situation is the importance I put in traceability of food. So just to give you my reality is that I go pick my fruits and veggies in a fruits and vegetables shop across the corner, to make it simple. And normally, I pick it by myself. But because of the situation, the way it works now is that I hand a list, and then they pick the things for me, and then I have to wait in the street. And obviously, I could ask for the origin of things, but I don't want to be a pain. There is a queue of people waiting. But it's really brought this notion of knowing where my food is coming from, and I think in this situation where the food was available, it was accessible, but it's definitely more expensive. And I made the deliberate choice to go and pay the price, of course, because I'm privileged enough to afford it, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But what it brought is really that, food and cooking in this situation is indeed maybe the best entertainment that we have when everything else is closed and you can't do much out there. And for me, it was the way to recognize, as you were saying, the importance of food security, but also nutrition security, like the quality and what the value that we put in food. And I think the fact that, people are interested in growing their own food is also a reflection of that. I think we are sensitive about what we put in our belly, obviously, because, in my case, I'm privileged enough to have this choice and this option. And I'm thinking about those who don't have any option, basically. And that's something we should take into account when we talk about what we should do in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I was about to ask Yemi to jump in as well, but I
But tell
guess
us
I'm
about the
gonna.
Philippines, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So during the lockdown, well, basically there was a lockdown that was put in into effect sometime towards the end of middle of March, and it kind of got eased up just recently, just this week. But within that span of maybe almost 2 months, you'd see that people started actually wanting to learn about how to grow their own food in their backyards. The same thing as what you guys are saying, that people started to see the value of growing your own food, given that certain establishments or food establishments where they normally would have sourced their food from have actually closed up, because the reality being that these food establishments also rely a lot on the supposed existing food supply chains. So with all the lockdown being restricted and trade restrictions being done in certain countries that supposedly export staples, and countries that were very dependent on these exports started, didn't have those food that they would normally consume. And I think that's what we were getting into. There was a trend of, you'd see it within my Facebook network even, that people started to grow food, and in recycling certain PET bottles, just cutting them, putting soil, and then growing, hanging them. And we have a colleague from YPARD Philippines who's also just putting container gardening, growing vegetables out of these. And we have people from the city who take pictures about how they're now growing food. And I think the crucial thing is, people are now understanding that food security is actually national security to some degree, right? And I think that basically answers why farm, because food security is national security. So before Yemi gets out of the screen again, I'm gonna ask Yemi to jump into this discussion. Yemi, tell us about what is it, how the reality is there in your side of the world.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead, Yemi.
Yeah. So I will speak from two sides of my mouth. So I will speak from the side of my mouth where the experience is coming from living here in Rome, in Italy. And
Mm-hmm.
as you all know, the situation in Italy is a really, really big one, and it got
Yeah.
really complicated. Can you all hear me? Is this still
Mm.
working properly?
Yes, yes. Go ahead,
All
Yemi.
right. Okay. So one of the things that became very clear to me was how much truth is associated with the Italian culture of food, in the sense that even when everything was felt like everything was burning down and felt like things had really gotten worse, there we could still access food. Basically, you could go to grocery stores. Grocery stores. I mean, they have restrictions on how to get in, and you need to wear your mask. You need to follow some particular guidance. But the food are always on the shelf. You know, the food are always there, and fresh food for that matter, fruit, parceled and packed food, and fresh ones, the one that are processed and so on. So in a way, I felt a bit privileged, even though it was in the middle of a pandemic. And everything felt like Rome was having. I mean, Italy generally was having the brunt of it, but food was available, and everybody, to a large extent, could access it, at least from my understanding. Now, from the other side of my mouth, which is what the reporter was getting from home, like family back in Nigeria, and how uh, there were a lot of difficulty before they could actually decide to have a lockdown, despite the indication that this is what is necessary. And so when the lockdown happened, for the first 2 3 days, people already were struggling to to have access to either finance needed to get food, like because income basically stopped for a lot of families. These are economies that relies on daily sustenance and daily engagement to get income. So in a situation where people cannot go out to work anymore, basically that means that food security is impaired, and that means families will start to struggle before you get to day 4 of lockdown. So basically, in some of these economies, it was lockdown was impracticable. So people really couldn't have lockdown for more than 10 days. So as we speak right now, lockdown is over before it even gets started, and people are back to trying to get food and trying to get their income back to stability and so on. And what actually was a bit more concerning was the problem with supply chains for food in general, because it also has a lot to do with blanket policies and blanket declarations that okay, no more movement, instead of some of these policies better filtered for different actors or different needs, so that the system can still continue to function. So basically, there was a problem with a lot of food produce getting spoiled. Some farmers, young farmers, were really basically crying for help on Twitter, with their food products, asking people that please help me share this, help me tell people if anyone needs tomatoes, or if anyone needs a crate of eggs, we can do home delivery because we can't move food produce anymore.
Yeah.
So some of these economies in like Africa suffered during the little period of lockdown that they had, while people like us in Rome, despite the height of the health crisis, we were still able to access food. So it talks a little bit about privilege and how a system works as well, and how different young people can engage based on the frame that allowed them to do so, based on different
Yeah.
arrangements across the landscape where we operate. So these two sides of the world, it's an interesting situation that I think will form a lot of the conversation we're going to be having today. So by the time people start to share their story, which I think people should do, so if you are listening, please let us know what is going on in the different localities. What are the stories? How are people trying to balance the situation in terms of still having access to living sustenance while protecting their health issue? Because I was having a discussion with someone. I was telling them that this issue is an issue of asking people to choose between starvation and illness in a lot of the economies. It's not an easy choice to make. It's it's difficult, and it also brings to bear the importance of why young people like us need to find our space and our
Yeah.
role in terms of getting engaged on the ground and planting the seed, and also in the hands of advocating and lobbying for a framework that will allow us to actually have a system that works, because everybody has a role to play. Because now discussion about food is going to be a political discussion. It's not just about getting food to the belly and health alone. It's now it's entrenched in political discourse. It's an issue of legislation, issues of access to to um, to different resources that frame how we are able to define food, who has access, who
Yeah.
doesn't, who is able to engage, and so on. Or I'll stop here
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because we've seen that the COVID-19 has basically shaken the systems that were in place around the world, in terms of how we've become so comfortable, maybe with how the things, especially with how delivery systems or logistical systems have kind of placed just in time systems for food to be right there at that specific time when you need it, on demand kind of thing. But I think the COVID-19 has brought to light maybe the issue that there are deeper um, issues, and I think Yemi pointed out where really well, where there are social and economic implications as well, that put the less privileged into the position of having to choose between food and health, right? Is it food first or is it health first? And I think that shouldn't be a choice that people have to make. It should be that people basically need to have that right to food and right to good health. And I think that's not a choice that people should make. But the reality is, this pandemic is shaking all the systems around the world and economies and health infrastructures and even the food system, where we're really questioning now, are we able to achieve food and nutrition security? And it's really important to point out the nutrition aspect of things, because like what Yemi said, when the social implications have kind of like been brought out into the open, you see that people are now questioning, with the little money that I have, should I buy food that I would normally eat, or should I buy larger amounts of quantity of less nutritious food but still can keep my belly full? So those become the questions. And I think we have some comments as well in the thread. I'll go, Dax, I'll go with the first question that maybe Azam placed in. So Azam said, let me put first topic in the floor. Pandemic is going on in these days, lack of labor force. Who youth volunteers can help farmers in the fields? What is your suggestions and ideas? Going out is also hard and scary because of change of the possibility of being contaminated by COVID-19. Um, Marina, Yemi, you want to jump in on first on that one?
Well, I don't know if I have any clear suggestion, but just to share an experience in France. So what happened is that there was the seasonal harvesting, and normally a lot of workers come from Spain, and because the borders were closed, then they had to call for workers within France. So there was actually a national call to ask for volunteers, well, not volunteers actually, because they would be paid. And there's been a lot of people responding to the call, but then it seemed that it was not as successful as it was expected to be. Because a lot of people who expressed interest were too far from where they were supposed to work. So there was still this challenge of moving, which was not possible at that time. And the second issue is that a lot of people responded positively, went there, but then were not reliable. They said that it was too difficult. They didn't come the next day, things like that. So I guess, the option of indeed sending a call out would be a solution, but maybe we need to refine the process through which you send the call out, you select people, you make them maybe more aware about what it means concretely to work in the field, because it's certainly not a workforce for everybody, maybe. And these kind of things like that, like how do you ensure that they can move, that you can accommodate them somewhere? These are a lot of questions to respond, to be able to indeed facilitate the volunteering in your different farming activities.
That's interesting. Putting a call out to ask for people to volunteer and be on the farm. And I think that's one thing that as you said rightly, that the process needs to be polished, just so that we still put the right and appropriate measures for putting washing of hands, the distancing, in these kinds of situations. So it's very tricky, but there is that aspect of helping out just so that the community can achieve food security. So Yemi or Alpha, you want to jump in on that one as well? What are your suggestions to address that? Dax, can we pull up the yeah? Or did Marina answer it succinctly already?
Yeah, Marina did a good job at it. What if I may add, you
Yes.
know, like in our case, I would say I would give a suggestion of what we have been doing here in Trinidad. We have really started developing our something we call a farmers collective, which is of course a model known across the world. And essentially, what we do is that we share markets, we share labor with each other. So let's say, we are all four farmers here. We choose a
Mm-hmm.
day, all go on each other's farm and help with that labor force on the farm. But tackle a
Mm-hmm.
particular project, right? So we have been doing that quite a lot since the lockdown here in Trinidad, and have proven
Okay.
successful all over the island, to be honest, because there were a lot of young people who I would say they now again they really got that push to start. Like let me really start this. The time is now.
Yeah.
So, and of
Yeah.
course, when it's like a large acreage of land, you really need help. You really need support.
You can do it alone.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. And sometimes that support is more or less there's motivational support as well. So I would say
Yeah.
we share motivation, we share labor, we share markets, we share seeds, we share soil. And it's sort of like a bank system. Then whatever you put in, you get out. So
Mm.
we track the time that you work, that you go on someone else's farm, and we know well. The bank sort of owes you those hours or something worth of that value to be repaid to you. It's like a loan, but zero interest loan too. So so
Yeah. Yeah.
that is the suggestion. I mean, I would have some ranting to do later on in our session here, because I will always say that young people need more and more support. And I'm sure those of you listening in, especially if the farmers listening on, you might definitely agree that more
Mm.
support is needed. But you know what? Practical support, not these support via paper. That doesn't work for agriculture, like practical on the ground support. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll save some of that ranting for a bit later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, good one,
Yemi, you want to
Alpha.
jump in?
Yeah, good one, Alpha. What I'm thinking right now is I would think from the angle of someone, for example, is an African young man. The person right now in these days will need income for sure.
Mm.
It's not a time where you can, or where you should, from the ethical perspective, encourage people to volunteer their time for things for too much. You need to look at it from the angle of people need to eat, people need income, and these are two things that are scarce in this period, which will be scarce for a while. So if you want to
Yeah.
design an intervention, an opportunity for young people to intervene, to do hands-on, to contribute to the system, you have to ensure that you design a program where they get the incentive to do so, and also they have tangibles out of it, like what Alpha just said. They don't need a certificate of volunteering for this kind of stuff. No, they need maybe like
Practical.
maybe a basket of food from the produce where they volunteered to contribute to planting or whatever, or some
Mm-hmm.
kind of forms of other incentives or compensation or whatever. But for sure, this is an opportunity to design programs where there are opportunity for people to learn technical competencies and so on, and also to get out of, you know, we are out of the stage of volunteer for competencies and you get a certification. An African young man don't need a certification right now. They
Mm.
need
Mm.
food, they need employment, they need to be able to boost of income, and I would argue that that would apply for most of the other developing economies, where
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
resources are scarce this time. So where if we have a program at the moment, or you're thinking of doing a program or something like that, reflect on how best to engage people with return for them as well.
Yeah.
Great. Wow. Those
You
are great.
know what? Sorry, maybe I'm actually
Go.
it's coming too early in the conversation, but what strikes me is that a lot of things that we're discussing about when we talk about, the need to address economical, social, and environmental needs, the fact that young people are struggling with unemployment, are things that we have been dealing with for
Yeah.
ages now, like years and years, and that's basically the core of YPARD's work. So all what we are trying to address when it comes to the sustainability of food systems and the critical needs of young people actually are the same as before, but COVID-19 is amplifying it. Like it's becoming really radical now. So I think the big opportunity and positive side of this situation is that there is an awareness growing about the specific needs that we need, both to have a more sustainable global system and providing strong support to young people. So I'm sorry to say that maybe it's inappropriate, but that's really the exciting aspect of this current crisis. Is that it's an opportunity to raise our voice even more on those issues that we have been highlighted for years now. We need a more sustainable global food system, and we need to engage young people in a way that they are indeed empowered and equipped to have sustainable livelihoods.
Yeah, and I mean, if I may just add as well to guys, like when I think about it, the two main security that folks around the world were concerned about when we got into this pandemic was one, which is a funny one, toilet paper security, and then two, food security. You know, as the toilet paper security got under control, then people panic about food. And then, you know, if we were to really examine, I mean, yes, I mean, across the world, there's a lot of, you know, aging farmers, but the young people, the ones really on the ground as well, you know, to make this sector sustainable, right? So the young people really need that support, you know. And I saw someone ask a question about, it came off the screen quickly about YouthInAg's. Well, I wasn't sure if it was someone asking if it was Dax that put that there, but what can youth organizations do to support these young people, you know? And I think that we must, of course, continue lobbying, you know, YPARD, YFarm, you know, Thought for Food, all these great organizations continue lobbying. But what is one of the practical plans that we want to put in place, and let's give an example of this, is developing an agripreneur incubator design lab. And, you know, our acronym that is an aid lab, you know, because that is the kind of aid that young people need. So an agripreneur incubator design lab, a space where young people could come and get and create a product from concept to commercialization, an agricultural product with these raw materials. Because we found in Trinidad and Tobago as well that when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of watermelon was being wasted in Trinidad. And yeah, sorry to tell you that, Yemi. I know you were having some great watermelon before, but a lot of watermelon farmers were, you know, it was being wasted because they ended up like a big block or big bulk on the market. And you know, in my mind, I was like, you know, what's our watermelon industry? We don't have a watermelon industry, you know, and a lot of young people are growing watermelon. So won't they want to create a watermelon lolly, a watermelon juice, a watermelon smoothie? You know, all we do with watermelon is simply eat the watermelon. You know, I mean, I eat a lot as well, but it's like if there was a space for these young people who's growing these watermelon to be able to have access to equipment and machinery, you know, a space where they get training, motivation to create these products, you know, because again, I will always say, where does a young person find $5,000 to buy themselves a commercial dehydrator or a commercial food processor? It's very hard to get, you know. So this is something what YFarm is trying to, I would say, pioneer, and spaces in communities where, like, making it a model where these young folks could then could come in, get access to training, get access to some sort of financing as well. But in the case of having equipment, it wouldn't be a lot of financing. Maybe that's like your packaging, for example, and get these products on the shelves, right? So, I mean, that's about the practical things. And of course, we have been lobbying for support for doing something like this. It's really hard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at the same time, we won't stop because this will benefit so much young people. And these are the kind of practical things that, you know, we try to work towards. And I guess these are the kind of practical things I would love coming out of this meeting as well. You know? Yeah.
And I think this is the point of this discussion basically is to kind of bring those up into the space of developmental work and discussions of policies as to what are the practical kinds of support that young people need. And I think you pointed out that you see, like what Yemi pointed out, the social implications, the employment, the labor, the immediate, need to access basket of goods that they can consume as a young person and as a household. Maybe what you're saying in terms of putting those support mechanisms, and basically what Marina is saying is that we've been lobbying for this for years already, across different platforms. We have had the Thought for Food Challenge, we have YPARD, we have YFarm, we have young people at the Rome-based agencies talking about how young people need support, and not just a nice looking budget on paper,
Yeah.
but really something that's tangible on the ground that young people can feel and experience and really grasp and say that this is the kind of support that we need for us to move forward. And I think we have to adapt that towards the context of the new normal, in terms of post COVID. Maybe like, how is that going to look like, say for example, I mean, just chasing the rabbit down the hole here. You saying, yeah, Alpha, about putting up an incubator where young people can go, they have access to all the technologies, the infrastructure, or like the machines that they need to process their food whatsoever, so that they can have products that they can put on shelves. How is that also going to look like in the post COVID situation? So how do we bridge those products to the markets?
Mhm.
And I think that's also some things for us to think about, like how can local governments, how can developmental institutions work towards putting the necessary support mechanisms for young people to be able to access these kinds of support that you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we've actually segued to another question with that, with the point that Alpha was going into. And I think this is also something that Yemi and Marina could really bring some light towards, like how can maybe YPARD and fellow youth in ag organizations kind of continue to boost that engagement in and for agriculture, and jumping in on that spark of interest that young people are now seeing, saying that it's time for us to grow food because it's important, and many of us are now realizing the value of food and agriculture. So what do you guys think about how young youth and ag organizations can go and boost youth engagement?
Can I step back a little bit and raise one of the concerns I see about the future, because I think it will help to also frame the next concrete steps. So just because what I
Mm-hmm.
think when I think about scenarios for the future, looking at foresight approaches and so on, I see two radical scenarios. One is my favorite, where we really understand that indeed we need something that is more sustainable, global food systems that are more sustainable, and we work towards that. The worst case scenario I see is that indeed we are going through a huge economical crisis. This is real. And the risk is
Mm-hmm.
that the response to that is actually a very extreme capitalism model to fill that gap that we are going through economically. So I think it's important to keep in mind these different scenarios, because it will influence a lot the way policies will be implemented, and the way the mindset of the people we are going to talk with. So I just wanted to highlight that, to keep that in these scenarios in mind, and that we adopt the right mindset. By that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the vision and the mission of YPARD, trying to really engage young people as actors for sustainable global food
Food.
systems. Sustainable
Yeah.
meaning, that we have this economically balanced, socially balanced, and sorry,
Ecologically.
ecologically
Environment.
balanced
Yes.
environment. So I think for these to work, to me, first is to really understand the environments within which we work. So that means, as we have already started to do, collecting stories of people, their realities, their needs, their challenges at different levels, so that we really understand what's the problem, and then we can find solutions to it. And again, talking about risk and worries I have is that we all jump into new exciting, innovative projects without actually understanding what's going on.
Mhm.
Because talking about, being hopeful, I think there would be opportunities for allocated resources to respond to COVID-19. I think because it's already happening. But now let's be mindful about the way we are going to do that. And that's, my biggest fear. Like, let's step back a bit and let's understand what's going on, despite the emergency, the fact that we are indeed running out of time and energies in some ways. Another thing is to keep engaging in the discussions, like the policy debates, etc., as we've been doing already. So engaging in the different discussions that are mainly happening online, well, fully happening online currently. And then I think it's about maybe talking about, the needs of people and understanding through the stories that we collect, understanding maybe the skills that they need. I think Kemi mentioned about that as well, like what kind of skills do young people need in this specific context of COVID-19? It may raise, new skills that we hadn't identified before. And then carrying on the collective action, really. I mean, YPARD has been working as an international network with this idea that we need to join forces and to work collaboratively to not reinvent the wheel, be smarter in the way we work, so that we are more efficient and that our projects are more cost effective as well. So I think it's about that. It's coming together, finding solutions, writing this damn proposal, mobilizing the money and the efforts and the brand to do what we've got to do. And then I think it's about providing feedback, like showing the impact of our work, so that we indeed mobilize donors, let's say, or donors on the long term, that they understand that what we are doing is actually making sense, that it has impact, that it serves at our purpose, and so that we make sure that we build that strong relationship for a long time. So yeah, I guess that's it from my side. Yemi, I'm sure you have many things to add.
Go ahead,
Actually,
Yami.
no. Actually, no. I think, because I think what you said can also be conferred on other youth organizations or associations as well. In the sense that I think we all need to remember that the way the actors out there and institutions view us is like a site of legitimacy, like a site, a sort of an entity that confers legitimacy on a particular set of agenda, youth-related agenda. If we need to do X, Y, Z for youth in ag, then the site or the institutions that can give a sort of a legitimate content for how we should do it, what we should really focus on, and so on, is us. And so with that understanding, we need to engage in the sense that we need to try to like you said, like Marina said, there are some specific gaps that need to be filled. One of it is the understanding that there are some people who are more vulnerable than the others. COVID-19 had affected the whole world, but it's not going to be true to say COVID-19 has affected all the same way. Some people have been disproportionately affected, and some people will really suffer more of the brunt for a longer time. For example, in India, in April alone, about 27 million people lost their jobs. So which means, and so people are losing out a lot, and a lot of people. And one of my key fears is that within the last decade, there has been some advancements in the movement of youth in ag. We've progressed. That's it's an obvious factual statement that young people are doing more in agriculture. There are more opportunities. There are more light shed on it, and we've moved forward than we were. But then we might lose it. We might lose the trajectory because people may have been confronted with a lot of realities that they cannot handle within this period of time.
Yeah.
A lot of young entrepreneurs would have lost a lot of money or a lot of startup capital and so on because of this period, and a lot of fear would creep up, and we may need to keep up with all this, with this development, this evolution that is going on, to make sure that whatever gaps need to be filled as sites of legitimacy, as institutions that can confer legitimacy on key areas, key factors. We take those space, we fill those gaps, we communicate those needs. We look for those people who have those stories that can, they can make sure that our agenda or what we are speaking for is better, understood, and we communicate as such. So, which is, I think that that affects YPARD, that relates to all other youth organizations on the ground. They should any youth community on the ground. Whenever institutions approach you, they want to hear what you think, what stories you've got, and how things affect the group at large.
Yeah.
So, whichever constituency you represent, try to filter all the stories and come strongly to the space of participation and talk about them. Make people
Yeah.
realize that we've progressed and we need to do more, even especially now, because we don't want to lose the speed at which we evolve in. Yeah. So I didn't really
Yeah,
have too
Wow.
much more. See?
I
Oh,
see.
Alpha dropped out. Yeah, but I
Sorry,
think those
maybe
are really good points.
yeah,
Yes,
maybe
go ahead, Marina.
something like maybe more concrete. I think it's the added value of the digital world. When we are trying to physically distance ourselves, it brings a big opportunity when it comes to digital services, be it from farmers to extension services, or from farmers to marketers, or marketers to consumers. I mean, whatever other actors, there are opportunities for more, yeah, as I was saying, digital services. And well, we all know that young people tend to be more ICT savvy, or particularly ICT savvy. So there is an opportunity there, because there will be a niche there, and that needs to be filled. So that's something maybe to consider as well.
So that's one intersection between agriculture and the digital world where young people can come in very strongly because of the tendency for young people to be tech savvy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you guys are saying in terms of how youth and youth organizations engaged in agriculture can move forward is really kind of like calling those who need to be called accountable for, in terms of the policies that need uh, to be established so that young people are supported in what they do in agriculture. And I think that's what young people need to be reminded of, that you actually have the power to call, and you have the right to call those in power to say that you there is a responsibility to some degree that these support mechanisms must be in place so that there is a sustainable development in agriculture. There is the path towards sustainable food systems. And speaking of policies and development work, I'm glad to see that I think a while ago there was I think I saw on the stream the circa director, the Southeast Asian um, Graduate Research Center for Agriculture director was on the show for I think in the earlier part. So I'm not sure if Sir Glenn is still here. Sir, this is if you're hearing all these suggestions from Yemi, from Marina and Alpha, this would fit definitely well into whatever you're planning for youth in agriculture. YPARD is very much willing to help with that. And I think that's where YPARD and contemporary organizations actually have that niche, that there is that legitimacy that Yemi was speaking about, where we can actually lobby in behalf for young people and say that this is what young people need. These are the practical things that we need. These are the policies that we need. These are the employment skills that need to be developed. These are the basic skills that young people need to learn. Um, quote unquote life skills. It's not really soft skills at what others would say. It's really more of life skills that young people need to get access to, in terms of how they can build and develop themselves. And I think we've already answered another question throughout this discussion. And that discussion was, how would the dynamics of engaging young people be in terms of business? That's what Alpha actually raised. And there was a discussion on policy already, which which you guys actually put out what are the practical ways for policies to support young people. And I think one aspect is the academe and the research side of things, or also the extension side of things. Like,
Mm.
how do we engage the academia, the research, and the extension institutions so that young people are able to still access the necessarily, I don't know, call it what, the research technologies, knowledge, or access to equipment, maybe for development of further varieties or whatsoever. I mean, how would you guys look at that kind of um, lens? How do we engage those research institutions, academe and extension for young people?
Mm.
So I think one aspect that strikes me. Sorry, I'm speaking too much.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Yemi and I mentioned about skills. I think that's something where the academia could have some really like build strong researches on what are the skills needed by young people in the context of COVID-19. That's just an hypothesis that it brings the necessity for new skills. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's important to actually ask the question and find out, if there are indeed some skills that they will need. And looking at the broader picture, I'm sure they could also help, as I was saying, understanding the realities, like fully understanding what it means to be a young person at a time of COVID-19 when it comes to the needs, the challenges, the solutions that they see for themselves, the aspirations as well. So, we are doing that in a way or another through calls in the context of some specific projects. But I would actually see a well-grounded research being done on that specific topic. I think it would be really worth it. Because COVID-19 is not happening just now. Actually, we're talking about post-COVID. But
Yes.
when will we be posterior to that time? Like, I think we're still going to, the world is going to suffer for quite a while, unfortunately. Sorry to be pessimistic here, but
Yeah.
Mm.
So that direction is the direction of the discussion on post COVID is really kind of long term looking, and not just and kind of taking stock of what's going on now and what are the implications 2 years, 3 years, maybe down the road, on how we engage young people. Um, yeah, that's very
Yeah.
that's very true. Alpha, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I simply think that research institutions, academic institutions, universities, they need to be real, right? And I'll tell you why I say this, right? So before COVID-19, we had a relationship with a institution to sort of do some training with us, a foreign institution to come to Trinidad to do some training with us and some other organizations. And of course, that got on hold because COVID-19 came and the world is in a panic state. Right during COVID-19 now, like a few weeks ago, maybe last week, I get a call to find out if they could do some training with us, some webinar trainings. And my answer to them is no. Like, what webinar trainings on what, like things like record keeping and things like tracking your whatever and whatever. Like really none things right now. You understand? Because it's like, how am I going to take some of my colleagues at YPARD, some of my other partners to come and do some training on bookkeeping within this period where people are going crazy, people are wondering where they're going to get food, where farmers are trying to get seeds. Like, be real. Like come on. Like, come on. Like, what is that about at the moment right now? No, that is the wrong place and time. So it goes back to understanding the needs of young people now, understanding the needs of organizations now. I mean, we are interested in, I said to them, hey, whatever money you're going to take to do that training, because you're going to hire some big consultant to do that training with us, who apparently we don't know how to record keep. send me that money or buy us a dehydrator, send me that dehydrator. You know, like this is real. This is real. Let's save some of these fruits. Let's create some packages. Let's get young people who doesn't want to necessarily go in the field and farm. That doesn't mean that they don't want to be in agriculture. Let's get them to put something in a pack and sell that. You understand? To create a better sustainable livelihood, to create an income. And these are the kind of things that I always argue about. And like, how could in this time in here we take time off of the farm when people want food, people want fresh food, people are concerned about that to sit online. I'm not saying those things are not important, but it's always about place and time. You know, so a lot of people, a lot of those institutions, they miss the boat. And I'm going to give, so I guess I'm starting with my ranting now, right? I'm going to give another example too. When the pandemic first hit, we created a model, right? My projects officer at YPARD created a model to bring in 2,000 ducklings from a neighboring island in the Caribbean, in Suriname. I called up all these large agencies to support us with that. You know, we wanted to support, I believe it was 10 young people and give them 200 ducks to start a duck farm so that we have duck meat, right? You guys know what is duck, right?
Yeah.
Oops.
Hello, Alpha.
I hope it's so good. Yeah, and that is like the hardest thing ever. We still
Oh no.
His ranting is being cut off.
By who?
Guys, I did not mean to do that. It just happened.
I was just about to call Dax into the show because we're on the way towards the end of the show already. And I think we have some questions on the in the comment thread, and just like we said, we want this to be an interactive discussion. There are comments saying that there are lots of young people, like even from India. Hi Mahesh, you posted this. Mahesh posted that there are many young people who are actually leaving the urban areas and going to the countryside. So what are they gonna do? No, so those are the realities. Hey Alpha, nice to have you back.
I did not cut you off, bro.
I think I started getting really steamed up there and someone cut me off.
I did not.
The rant.
I promise you.
Oh my. Was I
Somebody
saying
cut off
something that
your
I'm not
ranting.
supposed to say?
I think Pius has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we jump into Paya's question, Alpha, maybe you could spend one more minute just to finish off what you were saying.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, you know, practical approaches. You know, we wanted to, we weren't asking these organizations, institutions, governmental organizations as well to give us any money. We just want support to import these ducks, right? And then when you a young person to go through all that in a time of crisis, to me, the world is in a pandemic. So all these red tapes and all these laws has to change because the world has now changed. You know, people are dying. You know, sorry to say that, but it's the reality. And we now trying to get those ducks, and guess what? We still couldn't get those ducks. We literally had to just get them ourselves locally, and we are still waiting. And it's just so much A to Z red tape in order to just simply import 2,000 ducks to give to 10 young persons to start them up with each with a mini duck farm. And these are the kind of impracticality that I advocate against, and it's horrible and it's embarrassing, to be honest. But yet still we have all these institutions who's on a webinar call every week talking about youth and food security. They're on a webinar every day. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And I'm like, I'm telling you what to do, but yet still you're telling me, I don't know what you're telling me. This one is telling me to talk to this one, talk to that one, talk to that one. And it's embarrassing, to be very honest. So I'm ashamed of a lot of these organizations, and I think they need to do more. Okay, you guys go on.
Somebody commented, poor Alpha, but I actually understand.
We got you,
Mariska,
Alpha.
no, she knows the trouble. She knows the struggle in the Caribbean, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
real. I'm
yeah.
not telling no lie.
But I think what you're saying is actually reality in a lot of countries, especially maybe I could even say in developing in countries, developing economies where there's a lot of red tape, and us young people who just want to do and get things done and get solutions done, kind of like find ourselves in how do we navigate through the all these red tape. If we just want practical solutions, how do we find ourselves getting the right solutions to the young people who need it the most, just so that they have food to eat. And I understand the struggle, maybe to some degree, what Alpha is saying, uh, and I think that that's something for us to navigate through, and it's just for us to, uh, how do we motivate each other, stay strong, and say, come on, let's still continue our work and still continue lobbying for young people's support. All right, let's jump into the questions from the comment thread now. There was a question from Pius. Thanks, Pius, for coordinating also for the YPARD Facebook page stream and sharing this out to the YPARD group. Thank you very much. So, Pius's question is, what are the simple lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic that young people can equip themselves with to be prepared for any foreshadowed disruption in the global food system? Whew, that was a mouthful, but very, very important question. Dax, we haven't heard from you. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe you can jump in on that, Dax.
that's it.
Oh
That's it.
wow, wow, wait to bring me into the fire, Jim. But okay, what are the simple lessons? Well, for me, I think with the pandemic and everything that we're seeing globally, I think that the most simple lesson that we have learned is the importance of food, the importance of where it comes from, how it is produced. Uh, Let me take off my headset because I'm hearing myself. So the importance of producing food and getting it from the farm to your plate, and the challenges that that food, that particular piece of food encounters before it even gets to you. So I think that's the biggest lesson that everybody can learn, especially the youth, to appreciate global food systems, how it works, the supply chain, the production chain, and I think with the increased appreciation, people will start to be more conscious about how they consume things, how their diet
Mm,
is constituted right now. What food do they need? What are their immediate needs? And I think this crisis has, like Marina said, has brought issues to the forefront that were previously shunned or at the back of people's minds. It's not really in front. And now I think that food security has been brought into a bigger stage along with the health system. And I think that these are the things that um, we have learned as a as a planet. Yeah.
mm, true, true.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks,
Yemi, you
thanks.
want to jump in
I
on that?
think from my hand, I was every time I go on Twitter, and every time I read something about a young agriculturist somewhere, it's usually related to someone being stuck. Someone having limited resources to navigate the complexity that COVID-19 has brought into an already not too strong system. In the sense that I see the opportunity for young people to go into joint ventures rather than work solo. Because I realize that what we would need moving forward, a lot of people will need to come together and bring in ideas and see how they can and bring resources together. So because resources are limited, and to be frank, it's going to be continually limited for a while. Resources not just gonna come, you know. So some people will need to come together, two vehicles will need to send together, what this is about. And I think a lot of young people can learn from that. So explore possibilities and co-funding, co-resources to develop what is already about to die. So that's one key thing that I think the COVID-19 is teaching us. We cannot work alone much longer as we used to because
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that brings us to SDG
Um,
17,
SDG.
multi-stakeholder partnerships. It really
Yes.
puts into forefront how public, private, civil society, young people can work
yeah,
together to achieve sustainable food systems. Okay, so we have a couple more minutes and we might go over a bit, just a couple bit more. We want to
mm,
highlight some of the questions or comments from the thread. Um, Munir says a lot of kids are stuck in their homes right now. How do we take this opportunity of bringing knowledge on agriculture to these kids and inspire them to better appreciate the value of food and farming? Um, First of all, let them hear this web discussion. I think that's a good first step.
That's right.
The next step would be, I think Alpha would have
that's
the
YPARD.
Y farm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love the question. To be very honest, and I guess this is where I will jump
Yeah,
into
exactly.
one of the initiatives that
And this
we,
is YFAM's role right there. Where is he?
yeah, you guys hearing me right?
Yes, yes. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, great. Like Munir, why not create a challenge for these kids? While they're at home, and the fast food restaurants may be closed. Some of their favorite foods, the McDonald's might be closed. Why not create a challenge for these young people where they could plant their plates? Like plant what it is they want to consume on their plate. And this is one of the big things that I've been longing to mention on this webinar. What we have started here in Trinidad as well is like a plant your plate movement. Well,
Mm,
I say plant your plate. So that's that you guys know. I always share my dialect and my twang. So in Trinidad, how we might say how you guys would say you, we might just say yeah. And that is some of our dialects. So learn that, guys. So we say plant your plate, right? Which essentially means grow the things that you want to consume on your plate. Dax, could you put the YUH? It's very important.
YUH.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Plant your
Well,
plate.
Hang on.
yeah. I want the world to know. I want the world to literally know. Plant your plate, right? Um.
There
So,
you
so,
go.
so yeah. Thank you so much. So, Munir, like we could then create this challenge, a plant your plate challenge, where these kids are now growing, the food that they want to consume, and you know what is the challenge really? When they, let's say in 6 weeks time, when they are having a meal, they could then say that, hey, let's see who has the greatest percentage of things that was planted in their backyard on their plate. So it's like you can now say that 33% of things on my plate I planted it, 20% of the things
Mm,
on my plate I planted it. And this would allow for a greater appreciation of growing their own food. And one of the things that I could see in, let's say, 15 years time, God spare my life, I want children to be able to say, during that pandemic, during that crisis in the year 2020, I grew some celery, I grew some patchouli, I grew some lettuce, and that caused us to eat during COVID-19. And guess what? They now
mm,
know the answer why farm. Now, many of these children, they may go on to become doctors, lawyers, you name it. We need all of that, engineers, pilots. But as we always
yeah.
say, everyone must know the answer to why farm. And we now have the perfect opportunity to get these children to understand the why. This must allow them to understand the why. So again, to Munir and all your kids, and by the way, Munir is doing an amazing program in his end of the world. Really, really awesome stuff that he's doing over there. So I want everyone to be able to plant your plate. Yeah, it's not
O-
too late.
Okay, guys. So there's a challenge being directed right now to the viewers, and I think that's a challenge that maybe YPARD can even bring on and
Uh-huh.
Let's make that
Plant your
challenge
plate.
a global challenge. Plant your plate challenge.
Yeah.
I'm sure Pius is listening. Hashtag plant your plate, Pius.
Go ahead, Pius. You're given a go signal already.
Yeah, plan for plate. It's not too late. Let's do this, guys.
Let's do it.
Oh, I'm just waiting for those uh, spoken poetry of alphas.
Yeah,
We'll probably give him some time in a while.
yeah. Let me know when you're ready,
All
man.
right.
Ready to heat it up, you know. You know, I'm always ready. Eh?
All right. We'll take two more maybe from the comments and before we wrap up. Um, did you find anything else there, Dax? I think we have Justin, who's also
Oh,
from YPARD Philippines. He shared something about his NGO that he's part of. Uh, so he said,
yeah.
our NGO, I Am Hampas Lupa Ecological Agriculture Movement, attempts to connect food production, nutrition, and climate through massive open online capacity building opportunities. The nature of the organization is campaigning, but we're leveling up to actually realize efforts so we can even monitor improvements, work, do's right before our eyes. So I know even for a fact that his organization is working with local government units and other organizations to give seeds to people who want to grow food in their backyard. So those are things that young people can do and could do even post COVID, like organize these things and those planting in the backyards and plant your plate. So we're gonna have to make that a hashtag plant your plate. Okay, so YPARD Bangladesh is catching it already. So this is gonna spread like wildfire, Alpha.
Yeah,
Plant your
This is
plate.
gonna go around YPARD Global anytime soon. Plant your plate,
let's do it.
and we have to say it in the Trinidad and Tobago twang.
It's
Yeah.
important.
Plant your plate.
It's
You got it down, Jim.
yeah. It's not Trini. He's a Trini now.
Okay. Did you find anything else, Dax, that we could highlight?
I think this one is a good
Okay.
question.
Is this a good question for us to wrap up with? Let's do this. How do you think the concept grow local, eat local will work in post-COVID situation and what youth organizations can do for that?
Well, let
Feel
me
free to jump in.
let me dive in because I had this final point that I really needed to say as well. Sorry for
All
grabbing
right.
you guys. Um,
Go ahead.
we must use poem. And what is poem, right? It's an acronym. We like
Uh-huh.
things. It stands for
Yes.
prioritize, organize, energize, and mobilize. Remember that, guys. Poem, right? And we must prioritize the needs of the youth. As youth organizations, I'm starting with myself with my leadership at YFAM. We must prioritize the needs of the youth. We can't continue to make the same mistakes that our seniors been making. They have been always. This is from my experience. A lot of senior folks who I interact with on a day-to-day basis. They still think as though they are 20 and 30 years old, and so much things have changed from since that time, right? When they were 20 and 30, 20 years ago, right? So they think they know the needs of the youth and they don't. So we must prioritize the needs of the youth. Then we must organize these needs as well and get these young people, these young farmers, these young agripreneurs organized. And then we must energize them, right? Because it's important.
Mhm.
And that energize, it speaks to motivation, it speaks to inspiration, and then we must mobilize them, right? Mobilize them in the
Yeah.
sense that organize what they grow. We can't have every young person that's growing cucumber or watermelon. We must organize and we must mobilize them in a way that we could collectively create a crop or different crops to create a product or several products. So again, poem, prioritize, organize, energize, and mobilize. This is what I'm trying to take the lead on doing, and I encourage others to do the same. Yeah,
Prioritize, organize, energize, mobilize.
there we go.
Go plant your plate.
Yeah,
Perfect. Yemi Alpha or Yemi Marina and Dax. Let's start with Marina.
I'm not sure I have anything to add after such a nice one. Prioritize, organize, energize, mobilize.
Yemi dropped off. Did he?
And yeah,
Yeah, he did.
just let me do a shout out at
Go ahead.
young women who may be following our conversations. If you have any questions or comments you want to raise, please feel free. I'm feeling alone here.
Yeah, we have people who are we have fellow young women on the comment thread. Uh,
Yeah, they did contribute, but more with comments and not rather questions or things.
yes, we need some more. We need some more gender empowerment in the comment thread.
Yeah, we need some more farmers.
Farm hers.
Oh, that's witty right there.
Alpha never runs out of all these things. Go ahead, Yemi.
That's why we love
What
him.
do you have to say?
I think I actually missed out on the conversation a little bit. Well, yeah, I think YPARD pretty much have it covered. He talked about it a lot, and what we really need to do is to, when we identify good practices, we share success stories of those who had used it, who had done it, and so that we can make sure that everybody else can learn from them. And resources that are needed to scale up some of these practices, we can also advocate for them. And we can advocate for resources to support that. That could be political resources, that could be investment resources, that could be learning capacities resources, whatever there is. But we need to, know them. When we know them, when we identify them, we can share these ways of doing things, and also to understand that increasingly people will be forced and compelled to try out new ways of getting food, which means, when you're desperate, you grab on whatever is possible. So for us to push good practices, it might be a bit difficult, but also empathize on why people may not be able to follow a particular routine, and sort of interrogate what are the ways by which people can still meet their needs, and also how can we still achieve sustainable food practices. So eat local, plant local, or whatever slogan we choose to use, whichever practice we choose to put forward, we should always remember that it may not work across the scale, and to understand the reason why it may be so, and and also make people feel that if they are stuck, their reasons are that we empathize, we understand, we know what it's like, and to basically our role is to balance the view. Our role is to advocate for everybody, not just some people, and our role is to,
Yes.
to identify our privilege, know what those privilege are, and also be able to interact with those who may not share those privilege, and be able to advocate for what is needed, such that we can also come to par with whatever sustainable practice we are pushing for. So that would be the role of
Yeah.
youth organization.
Yes. Well said. Well
Yep.
said.
Hmm.
Marina Dax.
I would just say, if it's the word of the end, I would just say keep on sharing your stories, tell your realities, your needs, your challenges, your aspirations, as I was saying, the solutions that you see for yourself. Join forces with your peers, and don't hesitate also to talk to decision makers, potential partners. It's really the time to connect the dots. I mean, more than ever. So yeah, let's just do that. Let's keep in touch. Let's work together.
Yeah. Dax. Last words and answer to the question of Azam.
Come
Last
again,
words and
Jim?
question to Azam. I was just saying, any statements to wrap up, and also maybe to
Oh,
answer also what Azam was asking.
okay. So let me take it off again. All right. So with the plant your plate and growing local and eating local, these two challenges I think are on a collision course, and I think that um, with the increased awareness now about food systems in general, because as brought upon by this crisis, I think that YPARD and other youth organizations in agriculture are in a prime spot to bring out and bring forth the solutions that they have. And I think that my only hope is that governments around the world, organizations, will also listen and will also heed the voice of the youth in these
Mm.
talks, because no matter how we cut it, we are next. We are next in line, and we are gonna be the next caretakers of our planet. We are the next caretakers of our races, of our society, and we need a voice. We need representation in these important and paradigm shifting issues. And I think that this forum, this talk has brought to the forefront the voices and the insights and the thoughts of the youth, such as Alpha, Yemi, and Marina, and Jim. And I think this should just be the start. And I think that we should continue campaigning, and we should continue bringing awareness to the issues. And um, we should have bolder voices, louder voices in these arenas. Jim?
Mm, great. So, I think this is. Are you guys satisfied with how this discussion has turned out? It's actually, I like how we've not followed the guide questions step by step.
Because we are disruptive. Youth are
No,
disruptive.
Yeah,
we
for
did
sure.
Youth
not.
are
We don't
No.
disruptive.
stick to the plan. We don't stick to the script. We do what
Alpha,
we have to do and we meet
Alpha
the
jumped to the last question.
Yeah, that's true.
So I like how we stuck to the core principle that we want this to be interactive.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, we have lots of comments on the thread, and but I'm sure I'd like to say to the viewers that we are way past. We were a quarter past the 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 time allocated supposedly for this. We have one comment. Thank you for introducing me to the concept of plant your plate. I want to know more. How can I help to spread the concept? Hope to receive more info about it. So why don't you go to YFarm or send a message to Alpha Senan right here, and you can communicate, get in touch with him. And I'm sure this is gonna be on YPARD anyways. The Plant Your Plate challenge is that is that
Yeah,
is that going to be there, Yemi?
yeah, yeah. Pius is over there. He's listening. We will talk with YFAM. Something about
So
yeah,
I'm very
good
happy to
stuff.
also see. I'm very happy to see that we have people from developmental organizations coming in, key people actually from financial institutions. I see some people right there, right in the comment thread, and I think these are the kinds of discussions that we hope the platforms where young people can share their ideas, can share
Yeah.
what are the practical ways to support young people, especially in this kinds of situation.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so Marina asked for a lady to be highlighted. We have somebody in the comment thread, Dax Priscilla. She said, I have watched one vlogger. The country officials where he is right now encourages their people to plant veggies, etc., by renting special garden places near the community and farm lots too. So those who don't own big spaces can still grow their own crops. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we can do. Yeah. Well, we can use the power of digital technology, do
Mm,
vlogging, start a campaign, and
mm,
be what we just showed you in this discussion. Be disruptive. We
yeah,
disrupted our
that's
own
cool.
program,
That's cool.
anyways. So
And there's a lot of models.
go ahead, Yemi. Yemi, go ahead.
I just got very excited, because there are a lot of models that work.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, what Dax and I normally do in our talks and webinars, we normally give people, the guests and speakers, the opportunity to do a shout out to people who they want to
Yeah.
shout out to on
To
the
greet
screen.
people.
Greet people, do a shout out whatsoever. You're free to do that right now as well. Who wants to go first?
Yeah. Just maybe
Well,
people who you want to greet. Yeah.
a big shout out to the world YPARD community. Obviously, like big
Yes.
thoughts to you all. And again, like share your stories, get involved. We love you.
Yes.
Shout out to YPARD.
YPARD. Yummy.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody. YPARD team. Shout out. Woo-hoo.
Yeah,
And to
yeah.
all financial heavyweights and all heavyweight institutions that have representatives that are watching. Let's partner, all right? Let's do cool things together. We're waiting.
Yes, yes, yes. Alpha.
Yeah.
Before I let you greet anybody, I'm really gonna ask you this. Do a very short whatever rap that you normally do for the
Yeah.
benefit of our viewers.
An
Okay, you guys ready? You ready?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Why farm you say if you could, you should. Why farm today if you don't, who would? Why farm don't play? The earth need food. Why farm I say serve a greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We need to have a
Go ahead, do your shout
frapping
out.
challenge. We need to
Yes,
have a frapping challenge.
yes,
The farmers who are rapping, frapping challenge.
yes, I support that.
Give
Rapping
me
while
maize,
farming.
give me maize, give me maize, give me rice. Yeah.
It's time to wrap up, guys.
Yemi got some bars.
Go ahead, Alpha, do your shout out and then I'll wrap up.
I wanna give a shout out, to all the folks who are on the chat asking about the plant your plate and how could they get involved and whatnot. And all the folks who are already on our plant your plate movement, we created it as a WhatsApp group. Yeah, Josine, thank you. Yeah, so really and truly. And also, I want to really give a special shout out to those institutional folks who may have joined in, and give a little message. Like as I said before, be real. Let's be real. This is a serious time, and let's not just think about the normal ways in which you do things, where you invite some young people to a conference and you speak and you go back home, you stay in a nice hotel, get some nice food. No, things are changing. People, when a young person do that, he keeps away from the farm for maybe a week or more, and his farm is in problems. We want some practical changes on the ground. We need some sort of I'm sorry to go on again, but we need some sort of collective support to really be able to not just help Alpha or to help Jim, but to really help organizations who have the capacity to help large groups of young people. So that's my shout out. I hope it's not a argument. I'm sorry to change the shout out. Yeah, that's me.
Great. So I'd like to thank all the viewers who've been there. I'd like to thank Marina, Yemi, Alpha for giving us time to have you here in this webinar. This has been a discussion that's been in preparation for 2 or 3 weeks of us just saying, is this pushing through or not, or how are we going to go about this? But we're finally here, and huge shout out to Dream Agritech for helping us, give us this platform to hold this webinar. So Dax is also a member of YPARD Philippines, but his company has created a section under their consultancy services that does training, extension, and hosting called Dream Agri Media, and this is what it is. This is what Dream Agri Media does. So huge shout out to Dax. Thanks for partnering with us for this.
Before we go, I just want to give a huge shout out to Yemi's internet, and he has been able to stay. Yeah, he's been able to say during the discussion. Yeah, he's the real MVP of this forum.
Yeah, I agree. I know that.
Yeah, I receive
True,
it.
true, true. So, so thank you everyone for
Oh
tuning in.
man.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Pius, for also coordinating for the YPARD Facebook page to
Yay,
share the screen.
Pius.
Go Pius. Thank you to the YPARD team, the country representatives, the members who've tuned in and
Go
engaged
Pios.
on the comment thread. I hope this is not the first and last, but I hope this is the start of the first of many
Mhm.
of how we can continue to raise the voices of young people to say that young people have ideas. We are worth listening to. We
Yes,
have the right to also be a key and active actor in the agri-food system to achieve
yes.
sustainable food systems, as what Marina kept driving at. So, with that, thank you very much, guys. We are wrapping this up. See you in the next one.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
you're amazing. Bye.